Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's special presentation. This is your host speaking to you from the studios of WXYZ Radio in Detroit, Michigan, where the magic of storytelling comes alive through the airwaves. Tonight, we bring you a tale of creativity, determination, and the birth of an American legend. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, gather the family around the radio, and settle in for The Green Hornet, the Fran story. It's a cold January evening in 1936, and in a modest apartment in Buffalo, New York, a young man sits hunched over his typewriter, the keys clicking steadily through the night. The lamplight casts long shadows across pages scattered with notes, character sketches, and half-finished stories. This is Francis Hamilton Stryker, though his friends call him Fran, and tonight he's wrestling with an idea that will change the landscape of American entertainment forever. Born on August 19, 1903, in the bustling city of Buffalo, Fran Stryker was no ordinary young man. As a child, he'd spent countless hours listening to the stories his grandfather told on the front porch, tales of adventure and heroism that would spark his imagination for years to come. He attended Lafayette High School, where his teachers noticed his exceptional talent for writing, and later enrolled at the University of Buffalo. But the call of storytelling proved stronger than the call of academia, and Fran made the bold decision to leave his studies behind to pursue his dreams in the world of entertainment. Picture, if you will, a young Fran Stryker stepping off the streetcar in Detroit, Michigan, his suitcase in one hand and a manila envelope full of story ideas in the other. It's 1930, and the world is in the grip of the Great Depression. Jobs are scarce, money is tight, and dreams seem like luxuries few can afford. But Fran Stryker has something special, an imagination that burns bright even in these dark times, and a determination that won't be dampened by economic hardship. Detroit's WXYZ Radio was unlike any other station in the country. Under the visionary leadership of George Washington Trendle, the station had become a beacon of innovation in the rapidly growing world of radio entertainment. Trendle understood that radio wasn't just about music and news, it was about creating worlds that listeners could step into, characters they could believe in, and stories that would keep them coming back night after night. When Fran Stryker walked through those studio doors, he found not just a job, but a creative partner who shared his vision of what radio could become. The partnership between Trendle and Stryker began with a character that would become an American icon, the Lone Ranger. Night after night, families across the nation would gather around their radio sets to hear the adventures of the masked man and his faithful companion, Tonto. The show was a phenomenal success, but success in the entertainment business often brings its own challenges. Sponsors wanted more programming, listeners demanded new adventures, and the pressure to create something equally compelling was enormous. It was during one of those late-night creative sessions in early 1936 that Fran Stryker found himself staring at a blank page, searching for inspiration. The Lone Ranger had captured the imagination of the American West, but what about the modern world? What about the cities where most of his listeners lived? Crime was rampant in the urban centers. Corruption seemed to flourish in the shadows of skyscrapers, and ordinary citizens felt powerless against forces too big for them to fight alone. There had to be a hero for these times, someone who could battle injustice in the concrete jungles of America. And then it came to him, like lightning striking in a clear sky. What if the Lone Ranger had a descendant? What if generations later, a member of that same heroic bloodline was fighting crime in the modern world? But this new hero wouldn't ride a horse across the prairie. He'd drive a powerful automobile through city streets. He wouldn't wear a simple mask. He'd have a complete disguise that would strike fear into the hearts of criminals. And most importantly, he wouldn't be an outlaw fighting for justice in the wilderness. He'd be a respected member of society, fighting crime from within the very system that spawned it. The character began to take shape under Fran's fingers. Britt Reed, newspaper publisher by day, masked vigilante by night. A man who used his position in society to gather information about criminal activities, then struck against them with the precision of a skilled hunter. But what would he call himself? What symbol would strike fear into the hearts of wrongdoers while inspiring hope in the hearts of the innocent? The answer came from an unexpected source: the natural world itself. The Green Hornet, nature's own warrior, small but mighty, beautiful yet dangerous. In the insect world, the hornet is respected and feared, capable of swift action when threatened or when protecting its territory. The symbolism was perfect. Like the hornet, this new hero would be underestimated by his enemies, striking swiftly and disappearing before they could mount a defense. The green color suggested mystery and the unknown, while the hornet represented justice delivered with precision and power. But every great hero needs the right tools, and Fran Stryker was meticulous about details. The Green Hornet would drive no ordinary automobile. His vehicle would be a masterpiece of engineering and design, a rolling fortress that could outrun any pursuit and strike fear into criminals who saw it approaching. It would be called the Black Beauty, sleek and powerful, equipped with every modern convenience and a few innovations that were purely the product of Stryker's imagination. Of course, every masked hero needs a trusted companion, and Fran Stryker drew upon his experience with the Lone Ranger to create Kato, the Green Hornet's loyal valet and driver. Kato would be more than just a sidekick. He would be a skilled fighter, a mechanical genius, and a man whose loyalty to his employer was absolute. The relationship between Britt Reed and Kato would be one of mutual respect and trust, a partnership that would prove stronger than any challenge they might face. When Fran Stryker presented his idea to George Trendle, the response was immediate and enthusiastic. Both men recognized that they had something special, a character who could appeal to urban audiences while maintaining the heroic ideals that had made the Lone Ranger so popular. But creating a character was only the beginning. Bringing him to life for radio audiences would require all of their creative skills and technical expertise. The music was crucial to the show's success, and Fran Stryker worked closely with the station's musical director to create a theme that would be instantly recognizable and utterly memorable. They chose Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee, a piece that perfectly captured the swift, determined movement of their hero. The music would begin each episode with a sense of urgency and excitement, preparing listeners for the adventures that lay ahead. Casting the voice of the Green Hornet was equally important. The actor would need to convince audiences that he was both the sophisticated newspaper publisher Britt Reed and the mysterious masked vigilante. Al Hodge was chosen for the role, and his performance would set the standard for heroic characters in radio drama. His voice carried authority when he spoke as Britt Reed, but became something altogether more menacing when he donned the mask of the Green Hornet. As January 31, 1936 approached, the excitement at WXYZ Radio was palpable. Everyone involved in the production knew they were about to introduce something special to the American public. The scripts were polished, the actors were prepared, and the sound effects were tested and ready. But even Fran Stryker, with all his experience and talent, couldn't have predicted just how enthusiastically audiences would embrace his new creation.
On that historic evening, families across the Detroit area gathered around their radio sets, just as they had for the Lone Ranger. But this time, they were transported not to the American frontier, but to the modern city streets where they lived and worked. The Green Hornet spoke to their contemporary concerns: corruption in city government, organized crime, and the feeling that ordinary citizens were powerless against forces too big and too well-connected to fight. The response was overwhelming. Letters poured into the station from listeners who were captivated by the Green Hornet's adventures. Children played Green Hornet games in their neighborhoods, and adults discussed the show's plots at work the next day. Within weeks, WXYZ Radio knew they had another hit on their hands, and networks across the country were clamoring for the rights to broadcast the show to their own audiences. But Fran Stryker's vision extended far beyond radio. He understood that truly great characters could live in multiple media, and he began developing the Green Hornet for newspapers, comic books, and even motion pictures. Each medium would allow him to explore different aspects of the character, to tell stories that might not work on radio, and to reach audiences who might not gather around the radio set each evening.
The comic strip adaptation allowed Stryker to show his audience the visual details he could only describe on radio. The Black Beauty could be seen in all its mechanical glory. Kato's martial arts skills could be demonstrated in detailed action sequences, and the Green Hornet's costume could be depicted in vivid detail. The newspaper strips reached millions of readers daily, spreading the Green Hornet's fame far beyond the reach of any radio station. When Hollywood came calling, Fran Stryker was ready. The Green Hornet movie serials of the 1940s brought the character to life in ways that neither radio nor comics could match. Audiences could see the Black Beauty racing through city streets, watch Kato demonstrate his fighting skills, and witness the Green Hornet's battles against crime in full visual detail. The serials were enormously popular, playing in theaters across the country and introducing the character to entirely new generations of fans. Throughout all of this success, Fran Stryker remained true to his original vision. The Green Hornet was more than just entertainment. He was a symbol of justice in an unjust world, a reminder that good could triumph over evil when individuals were willing to take a stand. The character appealed to adults who felt overwhelmed by the complexities of modern life, and to children who dreamed of growing up to be heroes themselves. As the years passed, Fran Stryker continued to develop and refine his creation. He wrote hundreds of Green Hornet stories, each one carefully crafted to maintain the character's integrity while exploring new possibilities for adventure. He understood that audiences would only remain loyal if the stories continued to surprise and entertain them, and he took that responsibility seriously. The Green Hornet became more than just a character. He became a part of American culture. Families would plan their evenings around the radio broadcast. Children would save their allowances to buy Green Hornet comic books, and moviegoers would line up to see the latest serial installment. The character represented something fundamental about the American spirit, the belief that individuals could make a difference, that justice was worth fighting for, and that heroes could emerge from the most unlikely places. The success of the Green Hornet opened doors for Fran Stryker that he had never imagined possible. Publishers wanted him to create new characters, radio networks sought his expertise, and Hollywood producers valued his opinion. But through it all, he remained committed to the principles that had guided him from the beginning: good storytelling, strong characters, and the belief that entertainment could also inspire and educate. In his later years, Fran Stryker often reflected on the journey that had taken him from a young man with a typewriter to one of the most successful writers in American entertainment.
He had created characters that outlived their creators, stories that continued to entertain new generations, and a legacy that would influence writers and entertainers for decades to come. The Green Hornet was more than his creation. It was his gift to the world. Today, as we sit in our own homes, perhaps gathered around our modern entertainment devices, we can still hear the echo of that original broadcast from January 31st, 1936. The Green Hornet continues to inspire new adaptations, new stories, and new generations of fans. The character has appeared in television shows, feature films, and countless comic book series, each one carrying forward the essential spirit that Fran Stryker captured in those early scripts. The story of Fran Stryker and the Green Hornet reminds us that great art often comes from the most unexpected places. A young man with a typewriter, working alone in a modest apartment, created something that would touch millions of lives and become a permanent part of American culture. It reminds us that creativity and determination can overcome any obstacle, and that the best stories are those that speak to the universal human desire for justice, adventure, and hope. And so, as we conclude tonight's special presentation, we invite you to remember the magic of those early radio days when families gathered around their sets and transported themselves to worlds of adventure and heroism. The next time you hear the flight of the Bumblebee, think of Fran Stryker and his creation, and remember that heroes can come from anywhere, even from the imagination of a young writer who dared to dream of justice in an unjust world. This has been The Green Hornet, the Fran Stryker story, brought to you in the classic radio drama tradition. Thank you for joining us tonight, and remember, the Green Hornet strikes again whenever justice needs a champion and when ordinary people need a hero. Good night and sweet dreams.